Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to BioPharm's 7th webinar in our series of CTMS webinars. In today's webinar, we'll be focusing on integration between a clinical trial management system and an electronic document management system. In case you missed any of our previous webinars or you would like to watch them again, the recorded presentations are available for download on our website, www.biopharm.com. We've covered a variety of topics in our past webinars and have some interesting topics coming up as well. And if you have any ideas for topics that you'd like to see in these webinars, please send us an email. Let me start out by introducing myself. My name is Param Singh. I am the Vice President of the Clinical Trial Management Solution Practice at BioPharm Systems. I've been working in the health and life science industry since 1999 and have almost exclusively been working with Siebel Clinical during that time. Before joining BioPharm nearly 4 years ago, I was part of Accenture's pharma R&D practice and leading Siebel CTMS implementations there as well. And overall, I've been part of now 15 implementations of Siebel Clinical. And these vary from implementations for pharmaceutical companies, contract research organizations, medical device companies, academic institutions, and they also range from anywhere from 30 users to global implementations of over 4,500 users. And with each type and size of organization, they have their own approach to selecting and implementing the solution and also integrating it with a variety of document management systems as well. And we'll discuss those today. So here's today's agenda. We're going to start with an overview of the benefits of doing this sort of integration. Then we'll look at 3 different approaches to electronic document management system integration. I know that the webinar description listed 2 approaches, but we're actually going to present 3, and we've actually prepared 3 for you today on today's webinar. And we'll wrap up with a live demonstration of all 3 approaches, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers. Before we get started, I do want to point out a few features of the platform we're using, ReadyTalk. Right now we have everyone on mute, and if you have an issue, please click on the raise hand button and we'll pause and address the issue. Also for the question and answer portion, feel free to submit your questions at any time using the chat window or the chat function on your screen. Those questions are going to come directly to me and I'll answer them during our Q&A session. So that's the best thing to use for submitting questions for today. And I also want to remind everybody that we are recording the presentation and it'll be posted on our website afterwards. So let's get started. So let's first start by looking at potential benefits of integrating your document management system with your CTMS. First, it really streamlines your document tracking process. As you'll see with certain approaches to this integration, you'll significantly reduce the number of steps in this process and actually automate part of the process as well, which speaks to the second point of reducing data entry and errors related to that duplicate data entry. It's going to reduce time as well in some cases, as you'll see today. And also, once that link is made between the 2 systems, you no longer have to jump out of one system to another and then search for related documents. The link is there, and this integration eliminates now the need to search for those relevant document files in your document management system. Also, in the same regard, it's going to simplify audits as well, where auditors are looking for data in your CTMS and your files in your document tracking system. So now that, again, we have that link, they don't have to do that searching and actually correlating data in one system to files in another system. Let's look at a particular example to understand some solid benefits. Let's discuss the process of the trip report in the system. With a robust CTMS, which is integrated with an electronic document management system, we can first complete the trip report electronically in the system utilizing our data in our CTMS. So we're taking our checklist, we're taking our follow-up items, our CRFs, and pulling all that together electronically with data in our CTMS. The user can then submit it via a full 21 CFR Part 11 compliant electronic signature capability in CTMS. The manager can then approve the trip report electronically in the CTMS utilizing that same e-signature capability. And we've actually demonstrated that capability, this e-signature capability in previous webinars. So it's customizing and configuring that review and approval process in your CTMS. So then once the trip report is now approved in the CTMS system, which is now fully integrated with the electronic document management system, can then send that signed PDF, that electronically signed PDF report, to your document management system and store it in the electronic trial master file in that study and sites subfolder. So the systems and the integration are now doing most of the work for you, enabling, enforcing, and supporting that entire process of completing, reviewing, approving, and archiving that trip report. So we're going to discuss three approaches today, like I mentioned, and the first approach to this integration is what we like to call the mock approach. What this approach does is when you create a document tracking record in CTMS, that action will automatically create a URL hyperlink in a field on that record, which points to the expected location of that document in your document management system. And the way that it does that, it mimics the folder structure in the CTMS and assumes the same hierarchy in the electronic document management system. And the reason we call it a mock approach is that this is not a true integration. There's no real communication between the two systems. We're just populating a reference link in one system to the actual file in the other system. So there's no communication. We're just actually linking the two systems to that reference point. So how does that work? Well, the first step is we create that document tracking record in CTMS, and there's a calculated field in the CTMS document tracking record which takes a standard URL path and adds the specific protocol and site identifiers to it. You can also add program and region if desired, but the protocol and site is what is required and unique about where you're storing those documents within CTMS and your document management system. So here's an example in step 3. The first part of the URL is a standard hard-coded path, and the items in red are calculated based on where that document record is being created within Siebel. So it'll take the protocol number and the site number, and it'll append it to that standard path to create a full path to the folder where that document for this site should reside in your document management system. And a note down here says, it requires the same folder structure in both systems. So to be able to generate a path that's going to be unique for each protocol and site, the folder structure in both systems needs to be similar in nature. So what are the pros and cons to that approach? Well, the pros are this is a very inexpensive and quick functionality to implement. Since it's not a real integration, we're basically just adding code behind one field to logically build a URL pointing us to the appropriate folder in the other system. So it's not a true integration. It's relatively inexpensive. There's not a whole lot of testing and of scenarios since we're not passing data back and forth. It's not extensive, so it's relatively inexpensive to move forward with a mock approach. The cons to this approach is that it is less precise. The URL that we're building doesn't necessarily point to the document itself. It points us to a site folder on that document management system. So once we're in that folder, we still have to locate and find our document. Another con is that it populates that URL as soon as that document record is created in CTMS. So every document underneath the site will actually have the same URL pointing to the same site folder. So there's nothing indicating, nothing in CTMS that gives us an indication that whether that document truly exists and has been uploaded to your document management system. So once we click on that link and go to that folder and search for our document, that's the only time that we'll know whether that document actually exists there or not and has been uploaded or not. The next approach is what we call the electronic document management system driven approach. So the EDMS driven approach is when it starts in your document management system. So what does this do? We auto-generate a hyperlink in CTMS when that document is physically uploaded to your document management system. So as soon as that document is uploaded, we upload some information with that document, and it automatically then will generate a hyperlink to the relevant records in CTMS. And so once that hyperlink is auto-created in CTMS, we can actually then share metadata about that document back to your document management system. And we'll get into some of the details around that as well. So how does this work? So step one, our document tracking record is created in CTMS. And that includes a document code or a document identifier that's unique to that site. So that's a pretty important step. So what this assumes is that the document tracking record is already created in CTMS before the document is uploaded. So the second step is that the document is uploaded into your document management system, and the required metadata is entered, including that document code. So that's what enables that link between that document record you created in step one and the document that you uploaded in step two. So once that's done, the interface then finds that corresponding record in CTMS, and through a web service passes that information on and populates the URL with the link to the document in your document management system. So let's look at the pros and cons of this approach. So the pros are, now we're linking directly to that document. It's not a URL directly to a site folder on your document management system. It's actually a link directly to the document, so you don't have to search. It's actually easy to see which documents have and have not been uploaded to your document management system, because the only document tracking records in your CTMS that will have a URL link will be the ones that have been uploaded to EDMS. So it's very easy to see which ones have already been uploaded. And then you can share document metadata in both directions. So as you'll see in our example, when we upload the document, we're actually required to only put in a very minimal amount of information and metadata for that document, such as protocol number and site number and that document code. So at most 3 pieces of metadata with that document when we're uploading it. But now that the link has been established between the two systems, CTMS can actually share a whole lot more metadata about that document back to your document management system, such as PI last name, first name, the account name, and various other dates and statuses related to that document record in CTMS. So what are the cons to this approach? Well, it requires that document tracking record to exist in the CTMS ahead of time. So there is still some manual setup that we have to do in one system to ensure that the link is that we're establishing that link between the two systems. And the last approach is your CTMS-driven approach. And so what does this do? Well, through CTMS, we're actually automatically creating the document records, the document tracking record in CTMS, and uploading that physical document to your electronic document management system automatically at the same time. So since we're doing everything in both systems with one action, it auto-populates a link in CTMS to the record in your document management system. So we don't actually have to do any manual setup in this scenario, since we're actually uploading the document and creating the document tracking record at the same time. We can actually establish that link in that same action. And since that link is there, we can share that metadata about the document similar to our last approach as well. So what are the steps to this? So we're going to be starting in CTMS. Most of this happens in your CTMS. So we're uploading the document as an attachment into CTMS, and we're entering required metadata while we're doing that upload. In today's example, you'll see a button called Send File. And this is specific to what we've done in our Siebel system, but you're going to click the Send File button, which will actually do a series of actions. It's going to create the record or upload that document to your electronic document management system, that file that you just attached, and it's also going to create a corresponding document tracking record in CTMS, and that link is going to be established there as well. That's going to point directly to that document that we uploaded. And then a third note is we're then going to maintain that document in your electronic document management system. So the file itself we use CTMS to upload the attachment and then send it to your document management system. But now that it's there, any sort of version control, any sort of updating the content of that document is all going to happen within your document management system. So the pros to that approach, we're creating all document and document tracking records simultaneously. So there's one action, and the hyperlink will always point to the same location in your document management system. So it always links to the most current version of that document. So there's ways for us to enable this integration. So even when you have up versions of documents, that the link will remain current. So if I uploaded version 2, when I click on that link in CTMS, it should take me to version 2 of that document rather than version 1. The cons to this approach, that is the original version of that document is always available in your CTMS. Since we utilize that for our initial upload of the document through CTMS, that original version is going to be available in CTMS, which could be a compliance risk. There is some additional configuration that you can do to address that issue, namely as you transfer that document, maybe deleting that version of the document on your CTMS, so you're always looking at the files that are in your document management system. So there's additional configurations that you can do to address that potential issue, but we haven't done it in today's demonstration necessarily. Okay, so we'll go into our live demo. So I'm going to share my desktop here. And here we are in our Siebel system, and we're also logged into Alfresco, which is our document management system that we use at BioPharm. So we've created a prototype between these two systems. So we'll look at both. We'll look at all three actually approaches live in our systems today. So the first approach is our mock approach, and this I'm going to demonstrate. We've actually created a few sites here for our EDMS demo, and we'll walk through each of these sites for each of the three scenarios. So the first scenario, we're going to go into Site 2 and look in our document tracking view, and you'll notice that all of the documents here that are listed all have a URL, and it's the same URL. It's basically pointing us to a specific folder in our document management system where each of these files will reside. So if I click on this, it's actually going to open a folder. You'll notice that there's 5 documents that are tracked in my Siebel system, in my CTMS system. But when I click on that hyperlink, it only shows 3 PDFs that are uploaded. So 2 trip reports and a 21 CFR Part 11 document. So it doesn't necessarily, there's no indication here to tell us which one of these documents or which of these documents are actually available to us on the site folder in our document management system. It just literally points us to the folder itself. And through configuration, anytime you create a new record in the system, it's actually going to automatically populate it with that same URL, because we're underneath this particular protocol and this particular site, so it's actually calculating that path utilizing the protocol number and the site number for this particular site to populate that URL path. So that's the mock approach. It's very simple and straightforward. We basically just put some logic behind this URL field and take in values from the protocol number and the site number and build out this path through that fashion. So that's our mock approach. Our second approach, which is our EDMS-driven approach, so everything that happens starts from our electronic document management system. So for that, I'm going to go into our document management system, and I'm going to go into site 002, and you'll notice there's 3 files here. I'm going to insert another file. So I'm going to upload a file, and I'm going to pick another trip report, and I'm going to click upload. And here's where we would add some metadata to this particular file. So we would already exist. Let's see. Let me delete one of these. Oh, I'm in site 2. Sorry about that. I'm actually going to jump into site 3. And here's where I'm going to upload my trip report. So I'm going to add content and look for my trip report, upload it, hit OK. And here's where we would add some metadata to this particular upload. So we would add protocol number, we would add site number, and we would add a document code. So I'm going to put in this dot code of 1234 in the description field. So I've put in that dot code, and now my file should be uploaded onto site 003. And through a web service, now if I go back into my Siebel system and go into our site 003, under my document tracking records, you'll notice that there's a series of documents here, but only 5 of them have a URL link to my document management system. So that tells me that, although I have 8 documents that I'm tracking, only 5 of them actually exist. The physical versions of that electronic document are, there's only 5 of them that exist in my document management system. And here's our trip report that we just uploaded. So there's my document code that showed up here under description, and here's the path to the document. And the great thing about this approach is that we're not pointing to a folder, we're actually pointing to the document. So if I click on this link, it'll actually open, if I have access to that particular document according to the security profile in my document management system, it'll open up that trip report document, that PDF. So here I'm looking at the actual document pulled out of my document management system. So that goes for any one of these documents. So if I click on any one link, it's going to pull up that actual document. So I clicked on 1572, and it's going to pull up the 1572 document that was on my alfresco system. So that's our document management-driven approach to this integration. And the last approach that we have is our CTMS-driven approach. So with that, we start in CTMS. I'm going to go into site 001 time. And for this one, I'm going to start in attachments. You'll notice that there's no attachments here listed. And if I go into document tracking, there's no document tracking records as well. So going back to attachments. Now before, actually let's create a new file. And I'm going to select this 1572 document. It gives you some specific metadata about that document, that it's a PDF, how big it is, when we uploaded it. We also get to put some document type and description. So I'm going to say this is my auto upload of 1572 for site 001. And before I hit the send file button, I'm actually going to go into my Alfresco client and go into site 001. And you'll notice that there's no documents here. So we haven't sent that file yet. We haven't uploaded it yet. So I just wanted to confirm that there's nothing there. So now I'm going to hit the send file button, and it's going to do 3 things. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to create, it's going to upload that document to Alfresco. So if I, just going to wait, okay, there we go. So I'm going to go into Alfresco and refresh this folder, and you'll notice that there's our 1572 PDF that just got uploaded right now. And if I go back into my Siebel system, now I'm going to look at document tracking. So the second thing it does is that it creates a document tracking record automatically with the activity type and the description that I entered as metadata when I was uploading that attachment. And the third thing it does is it creates this link which points directly to the PDF document in our Alfresco system, in our document management system. So it's done all three of those steps, 3 of those actions, as soon as I clicked on Send File in the Attachments view. And to confirm that this record is tied directly to that document, what we've done is on this record itself, we've taken the row ID, and I'm going to look at the row ID just by going to Help About Record, and we'll see that the row ID is 1-1KRQY. So that's the row ID of this record, this document record right here. And if I go back into my Alfresco, what we've done is when we're creating and uploading that file, we've actually made the row ID of the document tracking record, we've appended it to the name of the document that we've uploaded. So just to help us visually confirm that, in fact, both of those records are tied together, we've added the row ID as part of the name of that particular document. And again, if I click on the link either in Siebel CTMS or in here, it's gonna pull up that document that I just uploaded from my desktop. Okay, so with that, that's our demo. I'm going to go back to our slide deck here. And what we'll do now is we'll open it up for questions that you may have. So if you do have a question, like I said, the best method is to use the chat feature to submit your question, and we'll address the questions as we receive them. So I'm just going to go through the questions that I'm getting. First question is, can the slides from the talk be provided to the participants? Unfortunately, we don't provide the slides of our webinar presentations to our participants, but like I said before, the webinar will be recorded, and the recorded version of the webinar will be available online on our website, www.biopharm.com. Next question, what happens to the links if the file name or contents of the file need modification? Well, with each approach, this is handled in a different way, but in each scenario, this potential issue is addressed. So in the mock scenario, since we're pointing to a folder location, any modification of the file name or content of any of the files is not going to impact the link from CTMS to your document management system. In the EDMS-driven approach, where we upload the document first in our document management system, what we've done in this scenario in actual integrations is that with each upload of the document in your document management system, whether it's a new document or a new version of an existing document, we have our web service run at each time. So if the URL of the new version has changed, it would automatically update that URL in CTMS as well. So the result would be that the URL is pointing to the latest and most current version of that document. Next question we have is, what web services are you using for this integration? Well, we built custom web services for both the CTMS and EDMS integration approaches. We built custom XML integration objects for the data streams that are being exported and imported and transfer those XML messages using HTTP transport. It's a pretty standard approach to web services for this type of integration, and with each different system that we're integrating to, you would have to build out some similar custom web services for enabling that integration. The next question is the actual file not saved into the database and just the metadata? Actually, no, in each case, the actual document itself is being stored and attached to your document management system, and it's not just the metadata. And that's true for any of the approaches. So we're assuming that the document itself resides in the document management system, and that's what we're pointing to. In the CTMS-driven approach that we did, where the initial version of the document is also stored in the Siebel file system itself before it's then copied or transferred and eventually stored in your document management system. So in any of those cases, we're actually talking about the actual document itself being stored in each of those cases. Next question is, does this mean that the user must have a single sign-on type pass-through authentication between CTMS Siebel and the doc management system? Well, we've deployed this specific integration with or without single sign-on. So if your systems don't integrate with your Active Directory or LDAP service for authentication, and you just have database authentication, you would not be able to do single sign-on. Without single sign-on, when the user clicks the URL in the CTMS system for the document management system path, it'll route the user to a newly opened window, but then it'll prompt the user to log in to their document management system using their username and password before it actually routes them to the actual document or folder from that URL. But if single sign-on is in place, then both applications will use your Active Directory or LDAP username and password for authentication. So once the user clicks on the URL from CTMS, the system, since you're already logged in to Siebel with your Active Directory passwords, the system would pass the user credentials to that new window and automatically log them into their document management system. So that, of course, is more streamlined. It's a more streamlined process, and it doesn't require multiple logins for that user. So it's less frustrating from a user point of view. In either case, however, the security and access profiles are intact for the document management system. So if a user clicks on a document record in CTMS to which they shouldn't have access to in the document management system, once the new window opens and they're authenticated in either method, the document management system should then throw an error to the user, letting the user know that they don't have access to that document or folder. So all of your security in each of these cases is unique to the system, and it doesn't override any security profiles that you have in either system. The next question is, how would you track trial master file documents that are born as paper? So any and all documents that are born as paper and routed for wet signature, for example, throughout the organization will at some point eventually be scanned and uploaded as PDF to your document management system as part of your electronic trial master file. So each of the approaches that we discussed today can still apply. Once that physical document is scanned, converted to electronic PDF document, you can employ any of the approaches that we've laid out for the integration. So everything still applies, even if the document is born as paper. Next question is, which of the three approaches is more conducive to creating internal, external workflows for document review, approval, and e-signature? While working with some document management systems in the past, we have come across some very robust functionality for review and approval workflows, electronic signature capability, etc. If your document management system employs some of these modules and functionality, then it would be appropriate to utilize those in your document management system. Any and all of these, the three approaches that to integration would work with that overall setup, because that review and approval and sign-off workflow would be activated once that document is again physically uploaded to your document management system. Although if your document management system does not have review, approval, and electronic signature capability, you can certainly build that in Siebel CTMS on your document tracking module. So we've implemented this type of e-signature capability for trip reports, and we've actually demonstrated that in a past webinar related to trip reports. So you can certainly replicate that functionality to allow for review, approval, and signature capability for all of your documents in CTMS as well, if in fact your document management system doesn't allow for that. Next question is, do you integrate any workflow review approval functionality into the integrated approach, and how do you handle e-signatures? So I think this is, again, similar to the previous question, and again, it'll depend on the extent of review approval, e-signature capability of your document management system. So if it is there, then we recommend using that inherent functionality in your document management system and integrating to the document tracking modules of CTMS, like we've shown in our demonstrations. Next question is, would any of this architecture, EDMS or CTMS driven, work when both systems are SaaS-based? The answer to that is yes. It should work for sure if the systems have capability to communicate over HTTP. So you would have to, again, build custom web services for those systems, but if they have the capability for web services over HTTP, the same approaches should work. Next question is, can your custom web services be used with SharePoint rather than a CTMS system? So we can't necessarily use the web services that we've built here to use for, I guess, for SharePoint and other systems necessarily as is. We would have to create new custom web services to ensure that the systems that we aim to integrate are sending and receiving the appropriate data objects. We can try and leverage the approach and what we've done in terms of design and development of the web services, but most likely it would have to have to be a new custom web service for those systems. Another question, have you worked on any of these integrations with other EDMS tools other than Alfresco? Yes, as I mentioned before, we have worked on these types of integrations with a variety of document management system solutions, such as SharePoint, Documentum, LiveLink, IBM's FileNet, P8 system, and Alfresco. And we've actually integrated or done similar integrations to even through CTMS and even just a network share, which an organization was using as their sort of document repository. Again, it didn't have any sort of robust features of check-in, check-out, and version control, but they were utilizing a network share for their ETMS. So we had actually integrated directly with that as well. But any web-based EDMS solution would be able to work with any of these approaches to the integration that we discussed today. Next question is, will and can this integrate with clinical data management systems? And the answer to that is also yes. We've actually done several integrations with clinical data management and electronic data capture systems as well. And in fact, one of our past webinars discussed that topic, and we've provided a detailed presentation on our integration between Siebel Clinical and Oracle Clinical and RDC. So again, please check our website for that past webinar if you are interested in that integration. Next question is related to validation. How involved is the validation effort since both CTMS and EDMS will be touched? And unfortunately, this is a it depends answer. So it really depends. While any integration, whether or not you're validating the systems and the integration, the testing of that integration is going to take a significant effort. Again, you're dealing with multiple systems and testing out multiple scenarios. So the validation requirements or the testing requirements are significant. Validation requirements for your system is really going to be driven by your internal validation group and how they define the approach to validation. So if historically you're a risk-tolerant organization, then it may be less of an impact. And if your organization is historically risk-averse, then the impact may be a bit more substantial. But again, in either case of validation or no validation, just simple sort of testing the integration is really is still going to be a significant effort because again, we are dealing with two systems and the transfer of data, so we have to test out multiple scenarios and also test out all the error handling. So we don't want to lose anything in that transfer as well. So in planning for that, be prepared to have ample time for testing in either case. And I think we have one final question, which is, what is the cost for each? I knew we would get a question related to cost. So unfortunately, here's another, it depends answer. But with each of the three approaches that we've discussed today, it's easy to say that the first approach, which is the mock approach, which isn't a true integration, in its classic sense, would probably be the most straightforward and least costly option with this, with tying the two systems together. And it is one that a lot of organizations sort of go down the path of initially. The other two approaches would depend a lot on the other system that we're integrating with and the specific requirements your organization has on the metadata that it's going to share between the two systems and other specific configurations on how we're organizing that integration. But as with any real integration, on any system, integrations tend to be high-ticket items. And when validation is concerned, the effort and cost, of course, can increase. So as mentioned before, the most amount of effort that you're going to spend in integration implementation will certainly be in the testing of it and planning for the testing of it and ensuring that all of the scenarios are properly tested. So this is a significant investment to do some integrations like this, but we can certainly speak with your organization about your specific requirements and understand our and leverage what we've done in the past and generate a high-level estimate based on your specific situation. But again, the mock approach is relatively less costly, and if that meets your needs, maybe that's the best solution in the short term, from a cost perspective. Okay. So I think that's all the questions that we had. If there are additional questions, feel free to send us an email, and we'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you had. So with that, I do want to thank everyone for joining us today and sharing the past hour or so with me. I hope you found it was time well spent. We also have additional webinars planned for August and September. In August, we'll be covering the top 10 reasons why you need a CTMS. So that webinar is going to help organizations who are working on building a CTMS business case, put together a compelling argument of the need for a CTMS. In September, we'll be looking at Siebel Clinical from a job function perspective. So for example, if you're a clinical finance person, how could Siebel Clinical help you do your job? So that we're going to look at it from a role perspective in that webinar. In October, we're going to take a break from the webinars due to the Oracle Health Science User Group annual conference, which is happening in Toronto this year. And we're going to be presenting a few sessions there as well. And we hope to see you all there. If you have more information, if you want more information about that, please visit the user group website, which is ohsug.org, and you'll find information about the sessions and the conference as well. And again, as a reminder, today's presentation will be available for download from our website shortly. If you do have any additional questions or you'd like to discuss your organization's needs to determine the best option for integration or implementation of a CTMS, feel free to contact me directly. My email is on the screen. And with that, I will thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.